Hello, my name is Saima Zaman, Business Development Officer at the Employment Accessibility Resource Network, in short, EARN. I use the pronoun she and have short black hair and brown eyes. I'm happy to speak to you today about how to make your PowerPoint presentations accessible to people with disabilities. By the way, here at EARN, we've realized our own logo needs to be changed as it has red font on a white background that is not accessible to those with vision impairment. Red font is not accessible because it has a low contrast level between the text and most backgrounds. If red text is used on a white background, be sure to use a dark red or maroon color to ensure proper color contrast. We have acknowledged this and will be adapting to make this change soon. Disclaimer: barriers to technology evolve. Things we share today may have changed 5 weeks or 5 months from now. Work in this field evolve over time, as you may know. There are multiple schools of thought, even when deciding whether you would have the chat function available during a meeting or event, as this can implicate accommodation requests. At EARN, we try to adopt best practices as we learn on this journey together, knowing things may change down the road. Today, I'll be providing a high-level overview on how to create accessible and inclusive PowerPoint presentations. I will briefly cover the following topics: introduction to the accessibility checker and alt text, slide contents in chronological order, meaningful and accurate hyperlink text and screen tips, the use of color and fonts as well as font sizes, slide titles, the use of tables on PowerPoint slides, accessible videos, PDFs and other file formats, plain language, a recap on accessible presentations, and lastly, some resources. So, what is the accessibility checker? The accessibility checker is a tool within PowerPoint that verifies your file against a set of rules that identify possible issues for people who have disabilities. Depending on how severe the issue is, the accessibility checker classifies each issue as an error, warning, or tip. As you may see, in this slide is a screenshot of how you can access the accessibility checker within PowerPoint. So to access the accessibility checker, you'll click File, Info, check for issues, and then select Check Accessibility. Once you click on Check Accessibility, a tab on the right appears. I will show you an example in the next couple of slides. So this is an example of an inaccessible slide. Can you spot the accessibility issues here? Great. So you'll see there is red font on a white background. You'll also notice the font is underlined. This is unnecessary and harsh on the eyes to those with vision impairment. On this slide, there is a table, and within the table, there are the use of three merged and split cells. And I'll talk more about why split and merged cells are not accessible within PowerPoint slides. Now remember, we selected check accessibility issues a minute ago. Well, once you click that option, a tab appears on the right side of the screen with the title Accessibility. The previous slide was an example of an inaccessible slide, which has now appeared as a warning on the accessibility checker. Split and merge cells become an accessibility issue as this is not accessible to those with vision impairment or using a screen reader. Once you click Check Accessibility, A panel on the right appears with the header written Accessibility. If there are no issues, the panel will state no accessibility issues found and that persons with disabilities will not have difficulty reading this presentation. Alt text. Include alternative text with all visuals. Alternative text describes the content of images, graphs, and charts and helps people using assistive technologies and your broader audience to understand what's important or the intended purpose of the included images, as well as other visuals. To find missing alt text within PowerPoint, the accessibility checker can be used. A good guideline to use when adding alt text to images is to use simple plain language that briefly describes what content is being conveyed. For example, on this image, a finger pressing a keyboard button that says accessibility. Now, here's a screenshot of how to add alt text to your image on PowerPoint. So you'll want to right-click on the desired image and select alt text. Next, a panel on the right side of the screen will appear where you can select Generate a description for me or write 1 to 2 sentences that you wish to describe the image being shared. Remember to keep a description using plain language. I will speak about plain language further on in this presentation. Now, here's a screenshot illustrating an example of what appears when you click View Alt Text within an image. The visual description of the image appears on the right side. All right, so slide contents in chronological order. Ensure your slide contents match the order to which you are addressing them when presenting. Avoid jumping from one item to another when speaking because a screen reader will not be able to follow in chronological order. This is particularly important for users of assistive technology. Now, to learn more about creating slides with an accessible reading order, please feel free to visit the link shared on this slide. Also, closed captioning is provided within the video. Full and accurate hyperlink text and screen tips. Now, adding meaningful and accurate hyperlink text and screen tips to enhance easier access to link for those using screen readers. For example, when providing links to other websites, rather than indicating, click here for more information, write meaningful sentences that provide link text that will describe the purpose of the link and where it would lead to. For example, more information about EARN's virtual workshop series can be found on the EARN website. If preparing a Word document that may be printed, include the URL for the link in parentheses next to the descriptive link so that sighted users can enter it into a browser if needed. Closed captions and subtitles. Closed captioning and subtitles, they actually differ from each other in definition and purpose. Captions are designed for viewers who cannot hear audio, while subtitles are designed for viewers who can hear, but do not understand the language being spoken. Zoom and Teams offer closed caption as an accessibility feature on each platform. However, PowerPoint does not offer closed captioning, but you can turn on subtitles during presentations. The use of colors and fonts. Ensure that color is not the only means of conveying information. People who are blind, have low vision, or are colorblind might miss out on the meaning conveyed by particular colors. Microsoft PowerPoint currently offers many templates that use fonts and colors that are easier to see. Let's check them out in the next slide. So now here's a screenshot of accessible templates you can access right from Microsoft Office itself. You can access these straight from your Office application. So to begin, you'll go to File, New, and type Accessible Templates in the Search for Online Templates box. Slide titles. Give every slide a unique title. People who are blind, have low vision, or a reading disability rely on slide titles to navigate. For example, by skimming or using a screen reader, they can quickly scan through a list of slide titles and go right to the slide they want to. To find slides that do not have titles, use the accessibility checker. All right, so now we're back on use of tables on PowerPoint slides. If you must use tables, create a simple table structure for data only and specify column header information. Screen readers keep track of their location in a table by counting table cells. Screen readers also use header information to identify rows and columns. If a table is nested within another table, or if a cell is merged or split, the screen reader loses count and cannot provide helpful information about the table after that point. Blank cells in a table could also mislead someone using a screen reader into thinking that there is nothing more than the table. So it's best when possible to avoid using split, merged, or nested tables as cells. If you want to consult for accessibility, use the accessibility checker. All right, font size. Use a larger font size, 18 point or larger, sans serif, and sufficient white space. People who have dyslexia describe seeing text merge or distort, especially when the text is small or crowded. This can be a problem for those with low vision or those viewing the content at a distance. You can enhance the accessibility of your content for everyone by using larger fonts and including ample white space between sentences. You should also avoid using all capital letters or excessive use of italics or underlining. To find potential issues related to fonts or white space, review your slides for areas that may look crowded or illegible. Accessible videos. Make accessible videos to people who are blind or have low vision, or people who are deaf or hard of hearing. As mentioned, subtitles typically contain a transcription or translation of the dialogue. Closed captions typically also describe audio cues such as music or sound effects that occur off screen. Video descriptions means audio narrated descriptions of a video's key visual elements. These descriptions are inserted into natural pauses in the program's dialogue. Video description makes video more accessible to people who are blind or have low vision. Accessible PDFs or other file formats. Create accessible PDFs or other file formats of your presentation. The first step in creating an accessible PDF from a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation is to ensure that original PowerPoint file itself is accessible. Tags are the basis of an accessible PDF file as they identify the document structure, what should be read, and in what order for those who are using screen readers and other assistive technologies. You can also save the presentation in a format that can be ported to a Braille reader. Feedback that we've heard at EARN is that Microsoft Word tends to be more accessible over PDF for those with low vision. Plain language. Use plain language to make the content accessible to the broadest range of audiences. Plain language is also an approach to communication that sets out to make information easier to find, to read, and to understand. It does so through the intentional use of straightforward vocabulary, structure of sentences, and presentation material in a clear and logical order. Some tips for creating plain language include the following. Create content with your intended audience and purpose in mind. Use short sentences and omit unneeded words. Use simple everyday words, and if acronyms or technical terms must be include a definition or explain them first when they are used. Use a free readability tool to test whether your content is likely to be easily understood the first time it is read. And lastly, organize content with headers and lists so that content is scannable. All right, accessible presentations. So a recap. Many of you may have noticed that it is becoming more commonplace to include an accessible introduction that provides information about your presentation and yourself. This may include your name, pronouns, a visual description, content warnings for sensitive material, and more. For example, my name is Saima Zaman, and I use the pronoun she, her, and have short black hair. Visual descriptions ensure that people who may not physically be able to see the presenters have a chance to get a sense of who is present. They also support individuals who process information through auditory means instead of sight, specifically providing visual descriptors of a visual marker, such as clothing, a distinguishing feature, or accessory, such as the glasses, beard, or a scarf, can sometimes be a helpful identifier for those with low vision. Use live captions and subtitles if you are using PowerPoint in presentation mode. You can even translate your speech to other languages as you speak. For best results, use a headset microphone. Eliminate any background noise and ensure to position information within your slides so it does not interfere with captions. This can help enhance access for individuals who may be deaf or hard of hearing. On the same note, when presenting for an audience where card captioner and interpreters are present, it is important to pace delivery and pause periodically to allow the card captioner and interpreter to catch up, especially following names, place names, or jargon and words from other languages. Pacing delivery can also help people to more easily follow along. Describe any images, read any text that appear on the screen, and describe anything that you gesture at as if you were explaining it to someone who isn't in the same room as you. This helps to make content more accessible for people who are blind or visually impaired, or those with sensory disabilities. Additionally, naming yourself and your organization or positioning out loud when speaking. For example, Saima from Employment Accessibility Resource Network, EARN, at United Way East Ontario speaking within a group can help go a long way to assist those who are deaf, hard of hearing, blind, low vision, or have an auditory disorder. Also, naming yourself when speaking is particularly helpful when there are multiple speakers and when attendees are unfamiliar with each other's voices. When answering questions asked by the audience members in the chat and/or QA, keep in mind to read the question aloud before answering and to be sure to briefly define any new technical words, acronyms, etc. if the audience member did not. Once again, it is important to keep in mind that more time may be needed by your ASL or LSQ interpreters. Lastly, here are some resources and links that will be emailed to you afterwards. The first link is best practices for making PowerPoint presentations accessible in Microsoft Office. The link opens to a table including key best practices for creating PowerPoint presentations that are accessible to people with disabilities. The second link is access to the Plain Language Network. This is an excellent resource by the Plain Language Association International that provides in-depth information about how to use plain language. Third link, American Anthropological Association, Accessibility and Accommodations. It's an excellent resource, especially when you are seeking requirements and tips, as well as helpful information to ensure your presentations, communications, and overall work is accessible to people with disabilities. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this presentation made you learn more about how to make your next PowerPoint presentation inclusive and accessible to people with disabilities. Thank you.